Well, it's the beginning of another gardening year, and here's my little raised bed garden. As you can see, I start out with nothing but plain old soil, just like everybody else. And one of the questions people often ask when they see this little garden is, where did I get the soil from to fill these boxes? And I just used the soil that was here. When I dug out the pathways to put in the pavers, I just threw the soil into the boxes, and I have lousy soil. I just work with what I have. This year I'm trying very hard to only grow things that grow well here and preserve well. The last few years I have tried to grow anything that might possibly grow here just to give everything another chance. And what I found was our heat usually knocks out anything just as it's starting to produce well. It will either kill the plants or make the food so bitter that you just don't want to eat it. So I'm going to try very hard to stick to what I know grows well and I can preserve well. Things like lettuce did fairly well, but since I can't keep it, there's no sense in growing a whole lot of it. I have a few out here that just volunteered on their own, but that's it. I don't need any more lettuce than that. Right here I have kale that I just threw kale seeds on the ground, raked them in. I need to get out here and thin this out. The chickens absolutely love kale, and I've read that pretty much all farm animals love it, so it's a very good crop to grow to supplement your animal feed. Right here I have onions growing, and this is one case where I've already gone against my original plan. Onions don't do all that well here, so I bought 2 bundles, limited myself to that, and just crammed them in this box. And I know they're spaced too closely, but the plan is, as they start to mature, I'll pull every other one and use them up like that. I have Georgia Sweets on the right and Texas Super Sweets on the left. And as you can see, everything's not bigger in Texas. I have garlic growing here that was planted in the fall. It's doing well. I did allow myself one experiment here. I'm trying to grow some sugar beets, and I don't know if they're going to grow well here or not because I think they like a cooler climate than what I have. But what I want to do is see if I can grow some sugar beets and extract some syrup from them with my steam juicer. This ought to be a lot of fun if they'll grow. I only had about 75% germination on these, so I don't know how well they're going to do, but I'm going to give it a shot. That's some green onions that I bought this winter from the grocery store. Used the tops and then planted the bulbs right into the soil. And they grew very well even though I did this in the winter. Here's my asparagus bed. As you can see, they're starting to come up. I believe I planted these in 2011. And according to what I've read, I can get out here and cut these for a month this year. I have blackberries growing along the fence here, and as you can see, this is a real mess. I need to trellis these things up somehow. They just grow crazy. They grow a lot longer than I expected. I have some over here on the top of this fence, and they have grown about 24 feet long. It's just unbelievable. It just goes on and on and on. That's from one plant. And some of them are getting ready to bloom. In this bed I have some Detroit red beets. They always do well for me. And I planted some peas there, some Wando peas, and they did lousy. I only have about 10 plants that came up, and I planted them every 4 inches, and it just did lousy. In fact, Grandbaby planted a whole pack of seeds right there in that spot, and not one came up. I limited myself to just a few broccoli and a few cabbage this year. And right after I planted them, we had a hard freeze, so I'm sure that these plants have been stunted. So I don't expect much out of them, and I'm glad that I only planted a few. My blueberries are in bloom, and they look like they're doing extremely well. In this bed and in several other beds, I have planted ever-bearing strawberries. Back in 2011, I planted June-bearer strawberries with the idea that I could get the harvest all at one time and put them up and be done with it. And the plants did extremely well, but all the rain we had and 2 hurricanes really took its toll on those plants. And I found that one cold night can really affect your crop drastically with the June bears. So I decided to get rid of the June bears, and I'm going to everbearers instead to kind of not put all my eggs in one basket. So I ordered these everbearing strawberry plants, and I got them in the mail on Wednesday, and I planted them out, and this is Sunday, and they are already starting to leaf out, and hopefully by the end of the week I'll have some greenery out here. But I've planted 250 everbearing strawberries. They're the seascape variety. Here I've planted potatoes. These are russets, and it just seems like it's taken forever for these to grow, but it's only been about 2 weeks since I planted these potatoes. And I know that because I have videos, and that's another thing that I wanted to point out to everyone is if you have a video camera or a telephone that you can make videos, go out and take videos of your garden, because you can learn a whole lot from doing that. Even if you don't want to put your videos up on YouTube, just make the videos for yourself, because a lot of times you'll pick up on diseases or insect damage that you just don't notice when you're out there in the garden. And even if you don't pick up on it, if, for example, these potatoes don't do well, I can always look back on my videos and look for early signs of whatever went wrong, and the next time I see it, I'll recognize it. This bit here, these are red potatoes in this one. And it's a great motivator too when you have the videos, because like I said, it seems like it has taken these potatoes forever to sprout, but it's only been 2 weeks. It really does snap you back to reality when you look back on the videos and realize that it hasn't really been that long. Here I have some everbear strawberries. Actually, they're everbears in the south, they're June bears in the north. The variety is called Sequoia. These plants have always done very well for me, so I've kept these. Outside the fence, I have another everbear variety called Eleni, and I picked these up last year at the end of the summer on clearance from Walmart, and they seem to be doing well. They're full of blooms. Like I said, I have a very poor soil. It's heavy clay. I'm on the acidic side. I have practically nothing that occurs naturally here to replenish the nutrients outside of a little bit of nitrogen that I get from the rainfall, and I get excessive rainfall. My problem is drainage. I need to drain things away from my plants to keep the roots from rotting or smothering from the compaction of the clay. Yes, I know about the back to Eden method, and in my opinion, it would be the worst thing in the world for my conditions. I do not need to retain moisture. I need to get rid of it. I do not need anything that might add more acidity to the soil. It is acid enough. I also don't need anything that will rob what few nutrients that I have from the soil. I also need the ability to get in and aerate the soil. Piling wood chips up on my garden would be the most destructive thing that I could do. And that's one thing that you need to take into consideration if you're new to gardening. You need to take a close look at the conditions that you are working with and do whatever will work for that particular situation. What is popular is not always what's right. I do have a very brief dry spell, say from the 1st of June until mid-July, and in order to retain moisture during that period, sometimes I will come in and put a very light coating of mulch on the garden to prevent evaporation. But as far as piling a real thick layer of wood chips out here, no, that would not work well for me. In order to try to enrich the soil, this winter I piled leaves on these beds, and I tilled all the leaves in. You wouldn't even know there was a leaf out here now. I also added some perlite, hoping that will help with the compacting problem and help provide some aeration to the soil. I try to work organic matter into the soil whenever I can, but given the amount of land that I'm working, it's quite a daunting job, especially when I already have a full-time job. But you can work poor soil and get good results out of it. You just have to be willing to put a little elbow grease into it. People often ask me what I fertilize with. I use the cheapest 10-10-10 that I can find. It would be fabulous if I could completely fertilize organically. However, since I don't get much help from Mother Nature in that department, organic fertilizing would be a full-time job for me. I have a full-time job already, so the organic fertilizer idea just doesn't work well for me. So that's how my garden is growing now. I have the majority of it in strawberry plants, and that was my original plan when I built this garden. I wanted a place where I could keep plants of permanence like strawberries or asparagus or blackberries, blueberries, things like that, where I wouldn't have to worry about cutting them down or tilling them up and all of that sort of thing. And this garden has been ideal for that. I've been using the extra space to grow things like cabbage and broccoli and all, and using it for experiments, but I really want to get back to the original plan with this little garden and just have the permanent type things. I think next year I might plant another bed or two of asparagus. So that's how this little garden is doing as of now. I'll keep you updated on the progress and anything that I learn along the way, and I hope it helps.